Hello everyone, I'm Asif Ahmed. I'll be your instructor for the whole course of CISSP CheatSheet, which is unofficial. And I'm going to start from domain 1, namely security and risk cover management. What we'll be discussing in these lectures will be pretty much helpful for you, and you will have a very good idea of how CISSP is being turning on. And apart from that, we will have some sort of demo questions along with it so that your preparation for the course or for the exam will be as concrete as you like. So what topics should be covered in the domain 1? Here I can give you an overview. Like the first one is CIS slide. So CIS slide, as you all know, that CI is one of the most important topics. So I'll cover the CIS slide first. And then security governance, like how security is being instructed and being manipulated by the governance. And then the complete and effective security program will be there. And afterwards, we will have a full throttle collaboration of compliance, global legal and regulatory issues, understand professional ethics. And professional ethics, as you all know, that professional ethics is literally important for an organization. And apart from that, develop and implement security policy is also there, because you need to put up some sort of security measures over there in your organization. And personal security is also important, because for every organization, employees are the assets. And risk management concepts, there are so many risks evolve in our organization. How are you going to approach it, and how are you going to manipulate it, how are you going to fight against it? And there is some sort of threat modeling, like where you can find some important threats and how you're going to mitigate all those. And apart from that, there are acquisition strategy and practice, and security education, training and awareness will be there. So I'll be here with you for the whole journey, and I hope and believe that I will be able to help you out to become a CISSP in the very next and whenever you want. So let's get started, and I welcome you to my sessions. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Hello everyone. Welcome to my presentation. I'm Asif Ahmed, and today we are going to start and read about CIA triad. I think most of you are familiar with this, so let's see how CIA triad is working. Well, basically what CIA stands for. You can see here, CIA basically stands for confidentiality. So what confidentiality means? Basically, confidentiality refers to protecting some information being accessed from unauthorized people. Maybe in other words, we can say that people who are not liable or who are not authorized to get the access of the information is called being a confidentiality part. For example, I can cite one example here. Like the banking sector. Suppose in one bank there are some sort of people who are not authorized to access the data from the different financial sectors. And as the bank manager or the bank people, you are liable or someone is liable to take the information in a custody so that the unauthorized person, like the customers or something like that, people couldn't access the data from the bank. So if those information which is not accessed by anyone could be breached, then there should be a confidentiality violation. Now comes to the point of integrity. Basically, integrity refers something to ensuring the authenticity of information. Like there are some sort of information which you are enabling or making some sort of stuffs, and it's been altered or something like this way, then this not information is genuine. I can cite one example here. Like you have one website where you have given around 20 products which have different values, and those are being set by you. But some people from different locations or different perspective just change the values from the products, and for their own benefit, obviously, to get the products within their stipulated or the manipulated time. So it's really tough for you to make the integrity being ensured here, because those people are definitely trying to get the bad facilities from it, so the integrity is violated. So I have already said the website redirecting and selling person at different price rates. I can show you one example regarding the website redirecting.
It's basically mean that you were accessing one website from one point of view, but there are some people who are just making the website redirecting to their own site, so that you are not getting the site whichever you have intended to do, and they are getting the points, or they are getting the benefits of it. Now comes to the last point of CIA, and that is availability. Availability means that information is accessible by authorized user. Like, for example, DOS and DDoS attack. Like in a platform or in somewhere else, like you have the Wi-Fi facilities, and you are just accessing the Wi-Fi's, but somewhere around there are some sort of softwares or something like that which can be manipulated over there, so that people couldn't access the Wi-Fi, and someone is taking all the bandwidth from the Wi-Fi, so that he can or she can only use the Wi-Fi compared to the other ones. Now let's go to the second slide. There is one thing I can also want to mention here, which is the different negative part of these three, and those are the DAD basically, and D stands for disclosure, A stands for alteration, and D for destruction. Like for disclosure is just opposite of confidentiality, because whenever the information is being breached or information is being shared, then the confidentiality hampers, and this is called disclosure. And when the integrity is hampering, this is called alteration, because the information is manipulated by someone and you really don't have any idea what exactly information you have been sent and you have been received in a better manner. And for availability purpose, this is called destruction, because the resources you want to have or the resources you want to use is not actually available in some sort of places from where you can access those resources, and this is called destruction, which is the opposite of availability. Well, this is a diagram, and basically this diagram represents the confidentiality in details. Here you can see that there is a data. So data is being basically, whenever we are just performing the data manipulation or data processing part, data is being proliferated in three ways, like the rest, motion, and used. So I can give some sort of example over here, like how about the rest? The thing is that whenever data is raised, it's the basic example of data in pen drive, because whenever data is in pen drive, you are not really using the data. So the pen drive is encryption needs to be there, otherwise the data can be manipulated by someone, and there are some sort of encryption modules like AES-256. How this basically works, basically you have sending one data to someone else, like the 123, and you have changed the ASCII value of it to 61, 62, and 63, and people who are actually receiving the data, they have gotten a better idea that 123 is exactly represented or manipulated or eventually encrypted in 61, 62, and 63. Well, now come to the second point, and that is motion. What is motion? Basically, I can cite one example here so that it could be understood in a better way. That you are just using one website, which is Google. So whenever you are just using the website, you are taking the traffic from the site and you are searching something, or you are just want to have some sort of information from Google. So data is in the flow. So this is called the motion of the data. And how to protect the data? There are some sort of examples of it, like the SSL or TLS. So SSL basically responsible for the secure socket layer. So SSL and TLS, what does it do? Basically, it encrypts the data, like the difference of the HTTP and HTTPS sites. The HTTPS sites is basically for the secure side where data can be encrypted in SSL or TLS. So this is the one of the finest example of the data in motion. And there are one other example, like whenever you just go for the data or just checking out the data, then the HTTPS and TLS both are actually protecting your data from the unauthorized accesses. And now come to the third point, which is used. Basically, you are watching this video, so basically, so you are using the data in your computer, and I can show you one example, right? That watching the video lectures, that means you are using and accessing the data. But what if there are some people who really want to access your own data from your own computer? Like you are just watching the video, and there are some people who actually want to watch the video again with you, or maybe you really don't have any idea when they can access or this sort of video. So you can use a screen protector, and if people are moving around or they're having a seat on 20 to 30 degrees and just on your screen, then they couldn't be able to view your lectures from your computer. And there is another thing, like you can just lock your PC with one USB drive, and there's some USB drives available in the arena, like you just use all your data in your USB, and whenever you just put it in your laptop or desktop computer, you can have access all those data, and whenever you just remove it out, there is no one who can access your data. So you can just use it to ensure your confidentiality as far as the data is concerned. So let's go to the second slide. We have already done with the confidentiality. And the second part is integrity. Whenever we just hear the integrity, you have some sort of your mind, okay, fine, there are some sort of best things to happen or best possible way to protect something. So integrity is here. Like if someone has received your data and you need to check whether it is the one you have already sent, the originality checking, then the integrity issues arises. So there are so many formats in this world right now. Like you have your own data and you are sending to someone else and he's receiving some sort of garbage or something like that. So there are some sort of manipulating in the middle where, and you are just having the data, or he or she who is actually receiving your data is not getting the right data, whatever you have sent to him or her. So there is some sort of methods which can be manipulated or implemented for the integrity issues, like checksum and hashing. How you're going to use this? Like checksum is basically used like the suppose one text file, you have just right click on it and there is some sort of options like show the checksum. It might be a huge sum of values like A, E, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9 or something like that. And one person who is actually creating the file, his name is Anthony. So Anthony is created one file and he is just sending to this file to Bob. So what's the Bob responsibility is to checking the hashing file so that he could understand that both hashing file, whatever the Anthony has been maintained and Bob is being seen, is the same. If both hashing file is the same, then the file is quite integrated and there is no change in the file. If there is any sort of change between those checksum files, then there is a, some sort of misspacing was here. And there is another point like the hashing is being used like MD5 or some sort of hashing. So there is some sort of values which can be manipulated just in front of data. So whenever you are just sending the data file, if there is any sort of change in the hashing, then you could have understand that there is some sort of changes in your data or someone has already manipulated your data. In today's context, there are some sort of other things like the digital signatures. Digital signatures is being used by the Windows operating system to a large extent. Basically, what exactly Windows is doing is providing one digital signature for any sort of installation, and it definitely shows you some sort of message before installing anything. And if there is any sort of integrity or disability issues, then you can see the digital signature is giving you one message that it's not being, you cannot install this software in this PC or something like that. Yeah, and there is another thing like I have already talked about the digital signature, and there is one I can also mention that access control. Whenever you are just using your Linux kernel or something like that, there is a permission, because if you have so many people in your organization, you really don't want to give all the permissions to everyone. So there are some sort of 3 permissions are being granted, like read, write, and execute. So those people who are actually working in sales, they can already put the data in the system, and the persons who are actually the stakeholders of the project or stakeholders of the company, he has got all the execution power. So access control is really important. Whenever you are just giving the access to someone, then you need to understand that this is the best way to give the integrity or to maintain the integrity in a better manner. And file permissions, there are some sort of file permissions, so which file is available to whom, so this is the another part. And if you want to give the permissions to a file, you need to understand, or you need to segregate your portion of the users so that you can just do it in a better way. And there is another thing like version control, which is basically being used AWS to a large extent. Version control is being used because whenever you are just aging one circle or aging one or creating one file and you are just manipulating in, then there is a copy always available for the previous version. So when one version is available and you have done some tests, or you have done some adding or deleting or subtracting to it, so whenever this version is being changed, there is always one copy over there. So if any sort of version is being mismatched, you can just recuperate all the data from the previous version. There is another thing like backups. Backups is really important because whenever you are just having your data, and all the backups needs to be there. Otherwise, if you want to just restore all the data, if any sort of natural calamities or something like happen, then you can just having those data in your bag. Now we are moving forward to the third portion, and let's go to the third portion, which is availability. So whenever you are just thinking about the availability, availability means what? We are thinking about like whatever we are in your hand right now, or whatever we can access is called the availability. So here is a simple definition of it. Like availability is best ensured when the rigorously maintaining all hardware, performing hardware repairs immediately when needed, and maintaining correctly functioning operating systems environment that is free for software conflicts and all. Okay, so there are two major concepts in availability, which is IPS and IDS, is intrusion prevention system and intrusion detection system. Basically what IDS do? Intrusion detection system is telling you that someone is trying to be in your system and trying to accessing all your data from the system. What is IPS is showing is going to having the data in a rough manner and trying to bypass his or her access to a bit much prolific manners. And IPS and IDS is basically the portion of the firewall. So whenever you are just having a go and trying to manipulate the data from some sort of other extents, then IPS is the major concern to remove the data. Okay, now there is another thing like DOS and DDoS attacks. Like what is DOS? Basically DOS is the denial of service, and DDoS is the distributed DOS, which is distributed denial of service. And what is DOS? Actually what DOS is doing, actually whenever you are just, suppose for example you have around one specific data center where you have the Wi-Fi connection, and now one person is trying to manipulate it and want to having all the bandwidth from the Wi-Fi system so that people couldn't access those systems. So this is called DOS attacks. And whenever you just DDoS attacks is a distributed way where people or the hackers are manipulating your system from different locations and with different servers. Like you have 10 servers like Active Directory and some other parts, but all servers and all process could be manipulated by them, so that you couldn't use a single services from there on. So this is called DDoS attack. Well, there is another thing, which is patching management. What is patching management? Like you have already seen or familiar with the patching. Like when Microsoft is or some other Windows vendors or something like that, like providing some sort of softwares, there are some sort of bugs. So what they exactly do is relieving or relinquishing some sort of patching, and which is literally important to fix the bugs. So if you just manipulating or implementing one patching in a live environment without having to without just being checked it on in a test environment, then there might be a disaster. So what is exactly being instructed here to use the patching management in a test environment first, so that you are pretty much ensured that this patching will be definitely working, and you are just making all those 100% ensured and then doing the patching in the live environment. Otherwise, the availability could be lost, because if the patching has got some sort of bugs or system running, then your system might be affected by this. And there is also another part which is called risk management. Basically, whenever you are just feeling like I think you have already heard the term is RAID. So basically, RAID is for the hardware risk management part, and if you have any sort of failure or discrepancies in your disk, then this risk management is really needed to make the things or make the resources available to your users. So I think that control management and the risk management is literally important, and this is one of the finest things to have if you really want to make or available the data to your concerns.
Hello everyone, I will be the instructor of today's presentation to you, and I am going to introduce a very important topic as far as the CISSP concerned, which is IEEE. I hope and believe that you will have a very good idea after wrapping this presentation regarding the IEEE. So let's start the presentation. Basically, what IEEE stands for. IEEE stands for I for identification, A for authentication, second A for authorization, and the last but not the least A for accountability. Let's go in a bit more detail. Basically, what is identification? As all you know, that identification is the process of a subject claiming or professing an identity. Like any sort of identity, like it all about depends on the authentication, authorization, accountability, but those are for the later parts. Identification comes very first, and there is a core principle of identification that all subjects must have unique as far as the identification is concerned. We can give you one example here, like your username for your emails, or your smart card number, or your national ID number, or something like that, which have a single and regular entity and which is pretty unique. Let's go for the authentication now. Authentication basically the verification. Authentication verifies the identity of the subjects for the valid entities, any sort of accounts or something like that. I can give you one example here. An example is about your password. Like whenever you are just logging into an email, you will definitely need to put a password, otherwise you can't log into your email. So this is the authentication part. The process is continuing. There are some sort of authentication factors as well. The three basic methods of the factors is given below. Here we can already see. Type 1. Type 1 is something that you already know. I can give you one example here so that you can understand in a better way. Like your own PIN number. Like whenever you are using your credit card to an ATM machine, then there you need to be put your PIN number, otherwise you couldn't take out the cashes from the ATM. So this is the type 1. For type 2, there is authentication factor, which is something you have. For example, like any sort of hardware token or memory card or any sort of USB devices, which is something you already have in your account or you already have in your pocket, I should rather say. How about number 3? Number 3 is which is you are already something you do. Okay, I can give some examples over here as well. Like it is a physical characteristics of a person identified with different types of biometrics. What sort of biometrics? Like there could be so many biometrics, like fingerprints. As you already know that fingerprints are pretty unique. And voice prints, there is some sort of iris patterns. Like you might be familiar with that fact that your eyes are pretty much different from all of the persons of the world, and the face shapes, palm topology, and all other stuffs. Fine. Now come to the point of authorization.
basically, what is authorization? Whenever we just heard about the word authorization, we need to figure out, or we will have a very much clear picture about some sort of the trusted platforms. Like, if you are authorized, or if you are authorized to enter somewhere else, or if you are authorized to do something, then you can do it. Otherwise, you can't. Like, for example, in Windows Server or Linux Server, there is a file authorization services. So whenever you are just authorized to access the file, you will definitely can. Like, you are being a sales representative or a sales automated person, there is a folder called named sales. So you are the right person. If you have given the authorization, then you can only access those files, but not the other files like IT files or management files or something like that. So this is called authorization. I can give you one nice example here. Like, suppose you are just sitting in your home at night and there is a knock at your door. You just say, who is it? You need to wait for a response. Someone says, it's John. But in order to identify themselves, you just speak to them that you need to come to the light so that I can see your face in the people. And then they do the same, and you just authenticate, okay, fine, I know this person, his name is John, so I have already verified that person. So at that point, you can decide that whether John is coming to your home or not. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, now come to the point of accountability. Accountability means there are some sort of words which you are already familiar with, like auditing, logging. Auditing means doing something whichever is already done and you are just checking whether it's been correct or not. Logging means you have done something and you have already made one trail of it so that people can understand that whichever things have been done in a wrong way or right way. So auditing is the process, as I already mentioned, tracking the something and who took an action, when and where the action was taken, and what the action was. And audit trail is literally very important for the IT people, overall, so all sorts of people, because one or more logs has been created for every incident. And when investigators review this, they can have a better idea what exactly going on in the past, and then they can derive some sort of decision from that incident. Okay, in other words, we can say that after identifying and authenticating users, so you have done the identification, you have done the authentication, accountability and mechanism, then you can give the authorization to someone, or you can give who can do the stuffs for you. Okay, now come to the most interesting part of my presentation, which is in a nutshell how AAA looks. I can show you one picture here. This is a very common picture to you. Like, whenever you are just moving to some places or something like that, whenever you need to create one account, you can see such kind of similar stuffs, like you need to give your username, you need to give your password. So whenever you are just taking the username, this is the identification, because that email address is unique. Whenever you are just providing your username or specifically email address, that is a unique one. So this is called identification. Whenever you are just giving the password, that password is specifically worked on that for that account. So this is called authentication. So system is authenticating you to just logged in. And if it's a mail or something like that, then you just logged into it and you can access all those email. And this is called authorization, because you have passed the identification part, you have passed the authentication part, and now you can access the resources because you have the authorization to access it. Last but not the least, whenever you just type one email or something like that, whatever you do in your email, you are the person who is accountable for this, because you are given the permission to do this kind of stuff. And if there is any sort of discrepancy or any sort of problem is happened, then you are the ultimate person whom to blame regarding all those stuffs. So you are the accountable. This is called accountability, and you are the ultimate accountable person for this. So I hope you have a very good idea regarding the IEEE, and I have a strong belief that you can just explain the IEEE factor to anyone right now after seeing this presentation. So I'm almost at the end of my presentation, and thank you everyone for having your time. Take care. Hello everyone. I will be an instructor for today's presentation named Security Governance. It is one of the another most important topics in CISSP. So let's begin. We will discuss about goals, mission and objectives of the organization here. Well, information security management practices protect the assets of the organization, basically, like the physical, administrative, managerial, technical, and operational controls. It is widely known that 100% security of information is quite impossible. And if it's possible by using the best practices, new vulnerability always being discovered. So there must be an ongoing process as far as the security management is concerned. Security professionals definitely needs to have a very good eye on risk advisement. They should not be the final decision maker, obviously, because if they are the ultimate decision maker, then there is nothing to do for the top tier people. So the best practices would be the security professionals to check and balance and ultimately make the decisions revealing to the people who are ultimately the decision makers. Alright, in the next slide we are seeing that security management ensures the relationships between the risk, implementing policies, promoting awarenesses and next risk assessment. Here I am giving you one picture so you can have a better idea about it. Like this is the general management. It's being started from the assess the risk and determine needs. Because without assessing and determining the needs, you cannot identify the risks. Then monitor and evaluate. This is really important because if you monitor and evaluate the risks, then you can have a better idea. Apart from that, you need to do the awareness promoter because promoting awareness is important so that people have a very good idea that what exactly needs to be done to avoid the risks. And last but not the least, implement policies and controls because those policies and controls basically save a company for being risked or to avoid the risks. Organizational processes. We need to understand the mission of an organization and how the security program is being relied on. So the following are the common activities, organizational activities, which will have a very good, give you a very good idea regarding the security professionals. Number one is acquisitions and mergers. What is it? Basically, this is the combination of some of the two or more the companies. Some of may be done for the friendly reasons or some may be for the hostility reasons. So this is the acquisition and merger of the company. And number two is divestitures and spin-offs. Basically, it's the opposite of acquisitions and mergers. It is a part of a spin-off of a part or complete liquidification. And number three is governance committees. What is this? This is basically this committee is responsible for determining the missing qualifications and characteristics which is needed to be increase the efficiency. Now security roles and responsibilities. It's really important because many people are working in an organization and each and everyone needs to have a very good and crystal clear idea as far as their roles and responsibilities are concerned. Today we have a very good security organization structure here and I can show you in a bit. There is no one size fits all because different people had different agenda and different people had different mindset. So one size never fits to everyone. And the responsibilities of the information security officer are really important. I can give you some example here, like after September 11, 2011, it's being a disaster because no one would even perceived that these sort of things might be happened, but it was actually. So afterwards, people are pretty much aware about the confidentiality and the access management system in their companies and some other security stuffs. And Edward Snowden, we all know his name by far because he is the ultimate person who just actually leaks so many classified informations
and have made so many people's life at stake. So it was really important that such kind of activities basically is an alarming system for an information security officer, and information security officer needs to have a very good idea to avoid this sort of arrangements. Now, information security strategies. What are the strategies basically? This is a tactical and operational plan which are pretty much interrelated between the organizations. What is strategic planning? Basically, is a long-term plan, like 3 to 5 years, and those are aligned with the strategic business and information technology goals. And security person, like there are so many things like BCP, like business continuity plan, physical security, and all other things are being included here. Second one is tactical planning. Tactical planning are a little bit lesser in terms of duration, and it's being managed and is being manipulated by different people who are actually responsible for different task phase. And those things can be manipulated, like I can cite one example here, like what site disaster. Like if you need to implement one hot site, then you can make a tactical plan, and basically it's a 6 to 18 months duration. And the last one is operational and project planning. Basically, this is the specific plans which is provide communication and direction for individual project which are being completed or next. It can be single, it can be multiple, and it is provide basically the functionality and compatibility with the project. We all know regarding the waterfall project, because it's a large time detailing project, and we can design it for a specific project. But we can avoid those sort of stuffs, because this is operational and project planning are being used to satisfy the executive management needs. Because if the waterfall project is being installed, then executive management might grow impatient, because there would be a regular communication needed. But operational and project planning help them out to gather the total resources for the tactical planning and ultimately for the strategic planning. So I am almost at the end of my presentation, and I hope you enjoy it. So I welcome you for my next presentation. Till then, thank you and goodbye. Hello everyone. Today our presentation topic name is compliance. This is another important topic in CISSP, and it is really important to understand the compliance in a better way. So let's begin. Okay, there are some sort of important terms here like governance, risk management, and compliance. And accumulatively, we can call them GRC. Basically, an approach commonly known as governance, risk, and compliance has evolved to analyze some sort of management mitigation in alignment in the business manner. And GRC ensures that an organization acts in accordance with self-imposed rules, acceptable risk levels, and external regulations. Now, legislative and regulatory compliance. What security professionals basically understand that laws and regulations of the countries are literally important whichever or wherever they are working in. For example, like in the United States, like federal executive agencies are required to adhere to the Federal Information Security Management Act, like FISMA. And maybe I can cite another example here, like a law may require for sensitive financial information to be encrypted. And an organization's policy could state that in accordance with the law, all financial information will be encrypted. What basically FISMA does, FISMA mandates the use of specific actions, standards, and requirements for agencies to ensure sensitive information and vital mission, because there some sort of might be disrupted, distorted, or disclosed improper individuals. Well, what is privacy requirement compliance? Privacy laws are literally the confidentiality challenges for the security purpose. And for example, I can share one thing like European Data Protection Directive only allows for the processing of personal data under some specific concerns. Like number one question is when processing is necessary, because they need to know the exact time of when the compliance is being necessary for a legal action.
Number 2 is when processing is required to protect the life of the subject. That's really important. And number 3 is when the subject of the personal data has provided consent, because if there is anyone or if there is a person who basically doesn't have the consent to share the personal data, people couldn't accept that. And number 4 is when the processing is performed within the law and scope of public interest. Like the information security professionals working in a marketing firm or any sort of firm, the impact of these requirements are literally important, because those questions need to be answered in order to process, store, and transmit the data or information in his organization. So this is the basic concept of governance, risk management, and compliance. I hope you enjoyed my lecture, and see you then. Take care. Bye. Hello everyone. I'll be your instructor for this presentation, which is naming the Complete and Effective Security Program. It is another topic in CISSP. Let's begin. Now, Oversight Committee representation. Basically, what is it? For maximum effectiveness, Oversight Committee should consist, because this is the increase of sense of ownership. Apart from that, this Oversight Committee is the Management Committee. Management committees being such a team which are basically working as a liaison officer or a senior management, like top tier, and basically they are the ultimate responsible for any sort of projects. Now, Security Council vision and mission statement. We all know about the word like vision and mission. I will be describing it in a little bit distinguished manner. What is vision? A vision statement is basically the alignment and supports an organizational vision. What exactly the organization is seeing itself after 3 to 5 years or even more than that. And vision statement not necessarily always being technical, but focus on the advantages of the businesses. And what is mission statement? Basically, mission statements are the objectives that support the overall vision of the organization. And mission statement is basically providing you the roadmap by using which you can help the council to purpose for its involvement. Now, control frameworks. For the ensuring security and privacy requirements are being met, there are around 5 things which are literally important, and I can describe those here, like consistent, measurable, standardized, comprehensive, and modular. So basically, what is consistent? Consistent means a governance program which is pretty much consistent, and this is the process of how information security and privacy being approached. And for measurable, like the governance program must provide some sort of measurable progress to set a goal that actually what they're literally want to achieve for. For a standardized process, a measurable format and framework, that is definitely should rely on standardization. So results from one organization or part of an organization can be compared in a meaningful way. And what comprehensive means, this is the basically some framework which is the minimum legal and regulatory requirements of an organization, and pretty much extensible and accommodated regarding the additional organization specific requirements. And modular is some sort of framework which is more likely to withstand the changes of an organization. And this is basically the control of the requirements of needing modification are reviewed and updated. Here are some sort of control family. You can see the abbreviation and the full name here, like AC access control, MP media protection, PL planning, etc. Now, what is due care and due diligence? What is due care? Due care basically is ultimately the important topic, because it is primarily a legal term, because it is the ultimate responsible person who exercise the given expertise or circumstances. Like if an organization is legally mandated to comply with regulation or information security requirements, knowingly or unknowingly neglecting those requirements could lead to a legal exposure from a due care perspective.
And the next is due diligence. Basically, due diligence is a practice that should be adopted by the information security professionals as a core tenet of their career. Like I can cite some examples here, like background checks of employees, credit checks of business partners, information system security assessments, etc. So this is all about my presentation. I hope you enjoy it, and please wait for my next presentation. Till then, thank you and goodbye. Hello everyone. I'll be presenting a lecture right now, and the presentation topic is pretty known in CISSP, which is global legal and regulatory issues. So let's start. Okay, what is computer and cybercrime? Computer and cybercrime are the proliferation of computer viruses, spyware, phishing, and fraud schemes and hacking activities around the world. And we are pretty much familiar with cybercrime. Here I can show you some examples. Like number one is CryptoLocker ransomware. What is CryptoLocker ransomware? Basically, it spreads via email and propagates rapidly. The virus encrypts various file types, and then a pop-up window appears on victims' computers that states their data has been encrypted, and you really don't have any other option other than providing the money in order to get your data back. And there is another pretty much difficult thing, which is child pornography. And this is a scareware. Like this scareware is transmitted when computer users visit an infected website, intentionally or unintentionally. The only way to unlock the computer is to pay the fine, which is usually between $300 to $5,000. And there's another one like Citadel ransomware. What is Citadel ransomware? It's named by Rifton. Displays a warning on the victim's computer that purposefully from a law enforcement agency claiming that their computer had been used for illegal activities, such as downloading copyrighted software or child pornography. So there is a licensing and intellectual property. We will discuss in a little bit elaborative manner here. Like two general categories are there, like intellectual property and privacy regulations. And intellectual property laws. What are the basically intellectual property laws? Intellectual property laws are designed to protect both tangible and intangible items and property. And there are some sort of ways to do it. Like what are the patents? I mean, the patents are, there is some sort of like progress or the portfolios. Like if any sort of patent expires, the protection ends and the invention enters the public domain. Like if you have won your thesis paper or something like that, and you have made a patent, and when the patent expires, the protection ends and you need to give it to the public domain, and anyone can download it from there on. And the patent has usually 20 years of time, and after 20 years, the patent is invalid. The slides are continuing. Like trademark. What are the trademarks? Basically, trademarks are designed to protect the goodwill of an organization. And a trademark might consist of any sort of word, name, symbol, color, sound, or product shape, device or combination, or something like that. And this can be used to identify goods and distinguish them from those made or sold by others. Like there is one tissue company for X, and they have already trademarked for their tissues. So if you can find this tissue in any sort of where else, you could have a very good idea that it's being made by the X company. Okay, now copyright. The copyright covers the expression of ideas rather than the ideas themselves. I can explain in a bit more detail. Like copyright in most countries, when the work or property is completed in tangible form, the copyright protection is automatically assumed. Now, import-export, pretty common term to you. Like basically what is import-export? Concerns about the inappropriate transfer of new information technologies and products with military applications outside the US. And the law is being instigated in late 1970s.
And we can see some more experts in the next, like all measures with respect to the arrangement are taken in accordance with national legislation. So how are you going to define that? Like there's some sort of trans-border data flow. The movement of information across national border drives today's global economy, like from different continent, like from Asia to Europe or somewhere else. And as information moves from one server to another, so there should be some sort of cloud or something like that. And the hosting organization begins its matter, because transborder data flows area increasing exponentially, because there are so many areas in the world right now. And whether for processing purposes, to facilitate e-commerce or something like that, for law enforcement or national security purpose, or maybe simply for some other reasons. Well, like cross-border data are, as I already mentioned, are literally pretty much effective. Now, what is privacy? Privacy is personal data should be protected by reasonable security safeguards against such risks as loss or unauthorized access. Because if your privacy is lost, then if your data is lost, then your privacy is lost as well. And and data can be transmitted or data can be lost like so many forms, shapes, or something like that. And it is prudent to have a basic understanding of privacy principles and guidelines, because keep up to date the data changing landscapes or something like that. It's literally important to understand what exactly the privacy is being converted or not. And it can be defined in some sort of like collection, retention, and disclosure of personal information. What is data breaches? Interesting concept. Like incident, a security event that compromises the integrity, confidentiality, or availability of an information asset. So this is called incident. And breach, an incident that results in the disclosure or potential exposure of data. And the incident and breach landscape is an ever-changing one, because with the nature of interconnected systems today, an incident that starts out as a small breach, perhaps limited to one system, or can quickly spread if unchecked to encompass entire global networks and data system. And data disclosure, which I already explained. Like eBay, I can give you one example of the pretty much known online retailer like eBay. The online retailer suffered one of the biggest data breaches yet reported by an online retailer. Like there is an attack named a small number of employee login credentials between late February and early March to gain access to the company's network. And by using this, compromised a database that contained customer names, encrypted passwords, email addresses, physical addresses, phone numbers, and even date of birth. The breach is thought to have affected the majority of the company's 145 million members, and many were asked to change their password as a result. Now, what is the relevant laws and regulation? Like one of the best resources currently available to help to the regulation. And currently in the United States, a company's possession and use of consumers' data is regulated by a patchwork, obviously, and generally applicable state data protection and notification laws. I can also cite one example of like Electronic Communications EC Directive Regulations 2003 PECR, which is basically rules on marketing and advertising by telephone, fax, email, and text messages, as well as rules relating to cookies and security breaches. So I'm almost at the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. And till the next time, hello everyone. I will start my new presentation, which is Understand Professional Ethics. So we will learn how the professional ethics being working on in different segments in this presentation. So I can start from here on, and let's go to the next slide. Okay, what is regulatory requirements for ethics program? We can see over here, like when creating an ethics strategy, it is really important to look at the regulatory requirements of the program. Because this is the ultimate platform to minimal ethical standard upon which is an organization can expand to fit its own unique organizational environments and requirements. Ethics plans needs to be established within the organization to ensure that organization complies with different regulatory requirements.
And what are the topics in computer ethics? If we can have a rigorous look on topics, we can see these. Like when you are establishing a computer ethics program, an accompanying training and awareness program, it is important to consider that which are being addressed and which are being researched. Like if you can see over here, like computers in workplace. As you all know that computers can pose a threat to jobs as people feel that they may be replaced by them, because computers are doing so many astonishing stuffs in current days. So it's not being the day which is not that much far away when people are literally finding themselves in a vacuum positions without any sort of work, because computer will take all those spaces on behalf of them. So the computer industry, it is also true that computer industry has already generated so many variety of new jobs for the new people as well. The second one is computer crime. You have already familiar with the different segments, and I have already mentioned in my previous lectures that computer crime like viruses, spyware, phishing and fraud scams are literally spreading out all over the world, and hacking activity from different locations from one to another. Computer crime and security are certainly topics of concern when discussing computer ethics. Then privacy and anonymity. Like I can give a bit much detail here. Like one of the earliest computer ethics topics to arouse public interest was privacy, because the ease and efficiency with which computers and networks can be used together, store, search, compare, retrieve, and share personal information make computer technology especially threatening to anyone, because who wishes to keep personal information in computer out of the public domain or out of the hands of those who are perceived as potential threats. Because whenever people are having a computer in their deck, they usually have pretty much frightened, like who is stealing and who is seeing my data, who can steal my data from here on, like these. And there is another thing like intellectual property. Like one or more controversial areas of computer ethics is concerned about the intellectual property, which is short term is IP, rights connected with the software ownership, because one person is making one software, and if it's the source code of the software has been hijacked or like compromised, then the intellectual property rules have been violated. And there is another one like professional responsibility and globalization. Like global networks such as the internet and conglomerates of business to business network connections are connecting people and information worldwide. So this is one of the most important in computer ethics. Now, there are some sort of common computer ethics fallacies, which I will be describing here. Like there are some sort of computer education is starting. We already know about that, and the lack of early computer education have a serious impact for most current adults. Like there are some sort of, I can provide some example here, like computer game fallacy. Computer users tend to think that computers will generally prevent them from cheating and doing wrong, because whenever you are just having the game or you are just playing a game, you need to win the game in a positive manner, and the sportsmanship needs to be there, so people can understand about the better things from the games. And law-abiding citizen fallacy, like laws provide guidance for many things, including computer use. Like sometimes users confuse what is legal with regard to a computer use with what is reasonable behavior for using computers. And there is another one like candy from a baby fallacy. This is a bit much funny name, but illegal and unethical activity. Basically, this is mean the illegal and unethical activity such as software piracy, plagiarism are very easy to do with a computer. Now, hacker fallacy. Numerous reports and publications of the commonly accepted hacker belief is that it is acceptable to do anything with a computer. Because as long as the motivation is to learn and not to gain to make profit from such activities, hacker can do anything, whatever they want. And free information fallacy. What is it? Basically, somewhat curious opinion of many is the notion that information wants to be free, as mentioned earlier, because information are such a thing which needs to be spread out all over the world, obviously in a positive and non-threatening manner. Now, hacking and hacktivism, those are a different term.
but pretty similar and pretty close to information as well. Like, what is hacking? It promotes the belief of individual activity over any form of corporate authority or system of idols, because it is an ambivalent term and most commonly perceived as being part of criminal activities. And basically, who is a hacker? A hacker was originally a person who sought to understand computers as truly as possible, because it's his or her responsibility. Whenever one PC is being installed or being instigated by one company, hackers are those who actually have the access of these computers and getting all the information from that computer or that servers or that group of computers or that group of servers. Basically, the idea of hacker ethic originates in the activities of original hackers at MIT and Stanford in the 1950s and 1960s. Okay, now ethics codes of conduct and resources. What are those? Like, there are several organizations, like there are several organizational groups have defined the computer ethics their members should observe and practice, and it promotes the belief of individual activity over any form of corporate authority or system of idols. And in fact, most professional organizations are literally adapting those stuffs. Like, they do have some sort of ethical codes, otherwise they couldn't control the nuisance or malfunctioning. And CISSP Code of Professional Ethics is here. Basically, this is extracts from the CISSP, so Code of Ethics canons is here. Like, number one is the protect the security, the commonwealth, and the infrastructure. It basically promotes that the activity should be in a positive and logical manner. And second one is act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally, because it supports a completely free market approach to the exchange of and access to the information. And apart from that, there is another one, like provide diligent and competent service to principals. Like, you need to act, tell the truth, make all stakeholders aware that there is some sort of still things are going on, and those are literally good for the company or bad for the companies, and on a timely basis. And number 4 is provide diligent and competent service to other principles, like some sort of perseverance or something like that. So those are the basic rules and regulation of professional ethics of CISSP. And there is some sort of organizational code of ethics, like one person like Peter S. Strippett has written extensively on computer ethics, and he provided the following action plans, because these action plans is given by Peter S. Strippett, and those are literally important. Like, I can start from number 1, which is develop a corporate guide to computer ethics for one organization. It's a must, because the corporate guide helps you out to make the ethics and to instigate the ethics. And number 2 is develop a computer ethics policy to supplement the computer security policy. Ethics policy are going hand to hand through the computer security policy, so you can use both of them here. And add information about computer ethics to the employee handbook, because the employee handbook has got all the information regarding the employee. So we can instigate, or we can just introduce the information about computer ethics policy over there. And find out whether the organization has a business ethics policy and expand it to include computer ethics. Number 5 is learn more about computer ethics, because computer ethics is not a small term. There are so many other stuffs here, and spreading what is learned, because this is really important. If you spread out all those knowledge, then it could be easier for the other person to understand regarding the ethics. And number 6 is help to foster awareness of computer ethics by participating in the computer ethics campaign, because there are some sort of companies who usually provide the campaigning regarding the ethics and security. So people needs to understand, and organization needs to understand that their people needs to understand all those stuffs in a bit more detailed manner. And number 7, last but not the least, is make sure the organization has an email privacy policy, because through email there are so many viruses and attackers can access your system. So make sure the organization has an email privacy policy, in fact. And make sure employees know that what the email policy is, obviously, otherwise there is no need of email privacy policy. So I am almost at the end of my presentation. I hope you have a very good idea regarding the understand professional ethics till now, and I have tried my best to give you the best overview regarding the professional ethics. So thanks for your time, and take care till the next presentation.